Welcome, everybody, inside the coach's office. I'm your host, Dan Murphy, alongside my co host, Brian Barnes. And Brian, going to do a little abbreviated show tonight. It's a little quick 20-minute episode, just talking some Tigers. They just finished the game in Fenway Park, beating the Red Sox 4-1. Another dominant start from Tarek Skubal, going 6 innings, just giving up 1 run. Tigers won 7 of the last 8 and looking good and back over 500. But Brian, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm well. Been a little hectic day, but it's good. It's a good sign. A lot of good things since we last talked about the Tigers after the Twin series and our stress there, and somebody mentioned maybe the Twins are just good. It's
Yes.
possible they're at least playing
Just
really
having a hot start.
Yeah, and so maybe all the paranoia and is out the door, but fun last few games for the Tigers.
Yeah, Twins playing well for all 20 fans that are in attendance for them, game in and game out.
In their defense, it's about 35 degrees.
It is.
And I wouldn't sit in it either.
Yeah, and they felt that the ownership has given up on the team, which they pretty much have because they're trying to sell the team. They sold off all their best players except for Buxton, pretty much, and Royce Lewis.
Yeah,
and they came out of the gates hot all of a sudden. Okay, kind of wild.
Jim Leland used to always say it's not who you play, it's when you play them. And they were hot, and the Tigers were not. You know what I'm saying.
And what did Sparky always say?
40 games.
Sparky always says 40 games, right?
40
you can't judge a team until 40 games, and that's both good and bad. And I think we might have been a little bit a victim of that, maybe a little bit, but that's kind of what we do here, right? We analyze the games, we analyze what's going on, and you gotta talk about what you see and give your opinion. And that 4-9 start and getting swept at a 4-game series against Minnesota, a lot of signs that weren't good. A lot of the things that hurt them last year going down the stretch to force them to lose a 15.5 game lead to the Guardians in the second half of the season. You saw a lot of those signs kind of early on, which was really concerning. But this last week, Brian, has been great. A sweep of the Marlins and then an incredible series of baseball with the Royals, a couple 2-1 games and then a wild one in game 3 that they were able to win 10-9. With a 2-run comeback in the 9th, which was just a really, really crazy game. But what do you think overall? What are the biggest things you've seen in this last week of really good baseball from the Tigers?
I think all right, let me get the negatives out of the way, right? I'll get that out of the way really quick. Like, obviously the injuries to McKinstry and Meadows aren't any good. But Perez is up and playing well. And guys that have track records, like historically, I remember when Magglio Ordonez struggled early out of the gate for the Tigers, or Ivan Rodriguez, and Jim Price, God rest his soul, radio guy for the Tigers, always said, hey, they're bubblegum card guys, right? Look at the back of their bubblegum card, and they have the numbers that at the end of the year they're going to be there. I think we're hypercritical of guys because they don't have the track record necessarily long-term that some guys have, right? So, I still harp on the Spencer Torkelson thing. I mean, he's not where he is now. Granted, like you said, 40 games, maybe in a month, he will be okay. But obviously, Kevin McGonigal, superstar material, no brainer. Colt Keith has been fantastic, as we've talked about, and started to get some at bats against lefties. Kerry Carpenter with a big home run today, and Dylan Dingler. I think you mentioned it to me. He might be, other than Cal Raleigh, the best catcher in the American League. In what he's doing. That's so fantastic job there. And the other part is the bullpen hasn't been perfect. Drew Anderson hasn't been great. I think it was who was it? Not Ty Holton. Brant Herter struggled the other day, but it's same with Connor Seabold. But Finnegan's been good, Jansen's been good, and their starting pitching has been awesome, right? And as long as you have good starting pitching, you have a chance to win, as the saying goes in baseball. And so, things feel kind of a little bit more stable now, and it'd be nice to get a series win tomorrow. And the Red Sox aren't playing very well either, so it's a great opportunity to take 2 or 3 and be 12-10 going into the next series.
Yeah, a pretty wild stat going into today's game. The Tigers had won 6 in a row at home, but lost 9 in a row on the road, which is just a crazy stat to have, especially this early in the season, to have those type of streaks. Thankfully, they were able to end that streak, and Skubal was kind of the stopper, as you like your ace to be. Really stepped up today and got that win after just a really crushing loss last night, a 1-0 loss. And I want to get into that a little bit. Because there's some things that happened in the game that had me pretty frustrated with some things that AJ Hinch did or didn't do. But man, to go get 9 shutout innings and to not win is incredibly frustrating.
Yeah.
And Brian, I want to get into this, and I want to get your thoughts on AJ Hinch, because it's kind of gone back and forth. It feels like it's kind of 50-50 with Hinch and how people feel about him right now. But some late game decisions in that game last night. Specifically, I will start. We'll talk about Baez and his, whether he should have stolen or not. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to go right to the 10th inning, and the Tigers. You have the ghost runner, so to speak, the Manfred runner, starting at second. He ends up getting, it was Dingler who was the runner. He ends up getting the third with 1 out. Wenzel Perez is up. Now he's a switch hitter. Iffer was the Whitlock was the pitcher for the Red Sox, a right-handed pitcher. So Perez being a switch hitter, he was batting from the left-handed side. But you had Colt Keith, who's been your hottest hitter on the team. Maybe him and McGonigal are the top two. Colt Keith, you could probably argue, has actually been maybe even a little bit better than McGonigal right now. Your hottest hitter on the team, left-handed hitters on the bench. You have Kerry Carpenter, who's admittedly had a slow start, but we know how clutch he can be. We've seen it in the past couple of years in big situations. He can get big hits for you, big home runs for you. Both those guys are on the bench. He likes to stick with Perez. Perez has an atrocious at bat. Doesn't make contact, horrible strikeout. Now you got 2 outs. Now you got a right-handed hitter. It's right on right with Torkelson. Torkelson, we know, whatever you want to say about him, there is one thing you can absolutely say: he is not clutch at all. He does not get clutch hits, and he's stuck with Torkelson, and Torkelson grounded out. They leave the runner at third. They don't score. They don't score the Manfred runner. Boston ends up scoring in the bottom of the 10th to win the game. What are your thoughts on this, Brian? I was incredibly frustrated to leave 2 of your better left-handed hitters on the bench in those situations. But what are your thoughts on AJ Hinch's decisions there?
Yeah, I think sometimes in baseball, like we've talked about AJ Hinch before, you've been more critical of him than I have. The over-managing aspect, you know what I'm saying? And there are at times where you got to let your guys play. Like maybe it was a Colt Keith and Kerry Carpenter, hey, you've got the day off, don't worry about it regardless. And you got to let your guys play kind of thing. So see what Wenzel Perez does in that situation. He had an interview on the 97.1 the other day in the morning with those guys, and he kind of talked about that situation and how sometimes we overreact to one at bat, you know what I'm saying? And we don't, and he talked about actually giving Colt Keith some more opportunities against lefties to see where he's at. But like, I am curious, like maybe that's just, it's an April game and he manages that a little bit differently come, August, September, October. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure it's a non-issue. Oh, first of all, those guys would probably be in the lineup anyway, but like, I'm sure he's playing those, right. Those numbers anyway. But in this situation, maybe it's just one of those, hey, I'm going to give Wenzel an opportunity and see where he's at. And it didn't work out. So, one subtle thing that I noticed slightly about going into the Boston series, like the Tigers had an off day between the home series with Miami and Kansas City. They flew right, had that big emotional win and then flew right to Boston to play the next night. And then after this series, there's no off day either. They fly right back to Detroit to play the Brewers, and then no off day again, and they go right to Cincinnati. Like, what a weird schedule. And so when they went into that, like, I'm not a betting guy, but if I would have had to wager, like, I'm not surprised you're going up against a good pitcher, Ranger Suarez, right after, no off day in between. Like, that's tough anyway. But that's not beside the point, was what you asked.
Well, yeah, and then a good left-handed starting pitcher, which oddly enough, the Tigers actually played pretty well last year against left-handed pitching, which was surprising. But generally, just looking at how their team is constructed, you would think they're going to struggle against good left-handed starters because so many of their top hitters are left-handed. Yeah. Which the way, and I just want to get back in this Hinch conversation because I don't have a problem so much with him, quote unquote, over managing. I never really have a problem with any coach as long as he sticks to a strategy. Like he has a strategy, he has a philosophy, and he sticks to it. I can ride and die with that as long as it's consistent. And my problem with in this game in particular was you got into these situations where he's prided himself his whole career. He's been straight in his whole career as a manager that he's going to utilize his bench to get the best matchups possible. You cannot tell me that Colt Keith or Kerry Carpenter isn't a better matchup than Wenzel Perez. And you definitely cannot tell me that Torkelson is a better matchup against Whitlock than a left-handed Kerry Carpenter or Colt Keith. And you've seen it already this year where he's pinched hit Colt Keith in situations with utilizing Jahmai Jones. And then you got into a ninth inning situation where that Jahmai Jones has to hit against a righty because he pinched hit so quickly. Like, if he's so quick to pinch hit Colt Keith, why isn't he doing the inverse in this situation to bring in Colt Keith, a left-handed against a righty? I don't understand it. And that's what frustrates me, is because the philosophy and the strategy isn't consistent game to game and situation to situation.
I think there's some validity to that. Again, maybe it was a situation where those guys had the day off regardless. Maybe he felt Wenzel was good in that situation. Maybe Parker Meadows is really out a while and they really think, hey, we got to rely on Wenzel long term. We want to show him that we have confidence in him in these situations going forward and see what he does. I don't know. I mean, to your point, it's like,
I guess I'm more frustrated, Brian, not to cut you off. I'm more frustrated probably with sticking with Torque right, because Luis Lenza, you could because it was just a few days ago that Wenzel Perez from the left-hand position hit the home run to win the game against the Royals. So I could understand that decision a little bit. I'm frustrated because I think you have better left-handed hitters on the bench that you could go to, but I'm more frustrated with the Torque. Because that's right when you got your best left-handed hitters on the bench. That makes no sense to me.
We had a listener on Twitter made a comment about, our critique of Torkelson and, like, were we this critical of Bobby Witt Jr.? Well, no, Bobby Witt Jr. is one of the best players in baseball. Like, it doesn't matter. I'm willing to
he was talking about the power.
Right.
Had no home runs. I'm not seeing Torkelson going horizontal in the air and making diving catches.
No. That's
right. That type of defensive player.
Playing the most important position in baseball, right? Torkelson is not doing that either. Like, and there's still going to come a point. I don't disagree necessarily, and I don't think this is an end of the year situation with Torkelson either. Like, hey, make a decision by the end of the year. I think dude has 60 to 80 games, and they're gonna make a decision, especially if Colt Keith is hitting. Like, all right, man, you're our first full-time first baseman, and we're gonna roll with it. We got to keep you in the lineup, and then, maybe. Who knows how the rest of it's going to play out with, McGonigal and Baez on the left side. Who knows? But I just, we're 20 games in. Your first baseman doesn't have a home run, doesn't have a lot of powers. OPS isn't great. Like,
still seeing the clutch situations not coming through.
Yeah, and it's a bummer because I like the guy and I think the fans like him. You hear him chanting torque, torque, torque. When he's up to bat in big situations, and like when he hits the ball, it's a great sound. I mean, it's cool.
The power's there.
It's there. So it's just something's up.
Well, from a positive side, you mentioned it earlier, the rotation has been phenomenal, all up and down. I mean, Carter Montero has come in with Verlander going in the IL, and just like he's done the last few years, comes in and just has done a solid job as the fifth starter. And he's not coming in and dominating, but he's given them solid innings from the fifth rotation spot, and this rotation has been fantastic. And you got to wonder with Verlander, and do you just kind of, hey, you're good, man. You can sit around for a little while. You can let that hip rest for a while. Like, we don't need you right now. There will become a time where they're going to need him, but they definitely don't need him right now. I wonder how long they just chill. Like, you're good. You're good.
That's a great luxury right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're right. They don't need him necessarily. Like, he's going to be a luxury at some point this season, whether it's as a fifth starter or as a bullpen guy in the playoffs. Like, that's a great luxury to have. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to become this, but I always wondered, if you think about him, like, look what the Braves did with John Smoltz. He went from dominant starter to dominant closer. And obviously Verlander's not going to be a closer, but like, who's to say, like, in the playoffs, like, he knows he's only going 2 or 3 innings. Maybe he's a middle guy. Maybe he's a long relief guy. And he becomes that. Like, that'd be pretty.
Or maybe he starts the game.
Yeah.
You don't completely switch his role at 43 years old. I think I think it's tough to do, but maybe he just goes 3 or 4 innings.
Yeah.
Or just
maybe he's an opener
lineup. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they're in that situation coming down the stretch. It would be cool too. Yeah. I don't think they're obviously not done with Verlander. It's nice. Oh. It's nice. Like we've talked about their starting pitching depth, like that we've said all along, that's going to be a strength. You know what I'm saying? And That's a good sign that Montero is developed the way he has, right? And we were concerned, and I know you were concerned, like we talked about the Reese Olson injury, Jackson Jobe. Hopefully he comes back at the end of the year. And then I know you were really concerned with Casey Mize, and now it's like,
oh man, and that goes back, man. Like spring means nothing. It just, you can't take anything from it, man. I thought like, okay, his mechanics are the whack and this, that, and the other, and he's been as good as we've ever seen him so far in this season. It's fascinating, like how little spring training really means from it, just in terms of looking at any type of stats. Like you really can't get anything from it.
Baseball is that weird sport where like you could have 4 great at bats and just hit missiles and go 0 for 4. And somebody could hit 4 dribblers and be 4 for 4. And it's like, who had the better day or who's the better player? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that spring training, you're right. Yeah. You don't know. And Casey Mize has probably he's obviously been better than we thought. Like I wasn't as concerned as you, but he's even better right now than he looks like the number 1 pick, right? He's the number 1 overall pick. So good start for him.
And real quick, before we log off here, like it says, abbreviated version inside the coach's office tonight, but Max Clark, we got to bring it up. I know we've been talking about it and we kind of joked about it, like, it's way too early to even think about bringing him up, but holy cow, does he continue to keep hitting? 4 for 4 night the other night, gets his first home run, absolute blast, making diving catches. Has more walks and strikeouts. Like he looks like one of the top picks of the draft and one of the top prospects in all of baseball. And that he's going to continue to put pressure on the Tigers organization to at least give it a thought of bringing him up at some point.
It's one of those deals where young, and I go back to it, and developing, and we questioned whether he looked like physically ready or not. He might just force his way to be on the major league team by the way he's playing at some point. Like some guys, like you have so many bullets, like you don't want to waste them in AAA. Like if he's ready, he's ready. You know what I'm saying? And then he also seems like the type of guy, if this is his response to the first time he's gotten a lot of criticism, right, as a pro, this is his response.
Such a great look.
Then you know what? Even if he comes up and does struggle and has to get set back down, I think he'll be okay. Yeah. Like I think he'll respond. If he's responded like this after struggling in the spring or people being critical of him in the spring, I have no doubt that he's more mature than anybody gives him credit for.
I know he happened to see was it Dan Clark that called him out on Twitter, kind of made a rebuttal and said like, this guy's proven himself. He said I was critical of him, all the things in spring, but this guy's shown it. Like he walks the walk and talks the talk. Like he's the true deal. Like he's the real deal. So that was really cool to see, because a lot of times guys will just not say anything or reply.
Same thing. Listen, who are we the most critical of? Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson. Like if those guys respond, like I saw somebody talked about today, like, hey, it's not a coincidence that Scott Harris didn't extend all of the Alavila guys, right? And he hasn't, right? That being said, if they turn it around, absolutely. Like we want them to be successful. Right, we want them to be great. Green was a top 5 pick, and he's doing all right. I think lately he's been doing okay. It's Torkelson's one that's struggling. If he turns it around and still ends up hitting 30 bombs, fantastic. Like it's only better, obviously. Yeah. I'll own up to it. Yeah,
absolutely. I gotta say, Green we were a little bit concerned that maybe losing the aggressiveness might take away the power. But that the power, we're starting to see the power come back. We're starting to see some homers, some doubles, some real good hard hits, and just better at bats, better approach for him this season.
It was pretty cool to hear, AJ Hinch talk about that. Like, it wasn't as much. I think he said it wasn't as much Riley Green changing his swing is just he's gotten better at recognizing the strike zone, right? And if you notice, the strikeouts are down, and to your point, power is still similar to what it was this point a year ago. So, credit to him.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, before we jump off, any final thoughts on this Tigers run?
No, good. 8. Yeah. What are they now? 11-9 after 20 games. I don't think people would be all that upset if you would have said that before the season. Either way, be like, all right, could be a little bit better, but not bad. We'll see.
And that's the thing too with the Central Division and really the American League as a whole. No one's really running away with anything. No. Everybody's kind of around 500 right now. So the 4-9 start didn't really hurt them too bad in terms of the standings. They, sometimes you get off to a slow start. A team in your division gets off to a hot start, and you're you're chasing that tail for a long time, man. That's not the case here. So they're right back right around first place in the Central. So looking good. Things are on the upswing for the Tigers, and man, nice to get 7-8. Nice, a great homestand win, 6 straight at home, 2 straight sweeps. So it's a lot of fun. That will wrap it up for us tonight. For Brian Barnes, I'm Dan Murphy, and we'll see you again very soon.